All right, so I'm going to get this started. Hi, everybody. My name is Lindsay Bedford. I am a graduate student at Drexel University. I'm in my second year, and I am also the newly elected student representative to the board for ASID PA East, which is really exciting. I'm very excited to start getting more involved in this organization and to start doing more things like this in the fall when I officially join. But before we get started, I wanted to talk a little about ASID. The Pennsylvania East chapter of ASID and ASID in general are celebrating their 45th anniversary this year. One of the amazing aspects of ASID is that it's the oldest, largest, and only design organization where its members encompass all aspects of design, from residential, multifamily housing, commercial, workplace, healthcare, etc. And I think you will see that today with the different panelists we have for this event. And we always inspire to enrich our members by providing knowledge, experience, and community to promote the profession of interior design. And of course, we wanted to thank some of our sponsors that we've listed here. Bright Light Design Center, Fessenden Hall. These are our Ruby level sponsors, followed by our Amethyst level sponsors, Kiefer Appliances, Benjamin Moore, Dow Tile, Hunter Douglas, and Krabbit. And without further ado, I am very pleased and honored to introduce our panelists today. We have a great group of individuals. It's a very dynamic group, and I'm happy to say that I know all of them personally. First, I'd like to introduce Marcello Luzzi. He is the managing principal at WPL Interior Design, located in Ardmore, Pennsylvania. We have Heather Moore. She is a textile sales representative at Maharam. We have Phil Burkett, who is a principal corporate practice leader for architecture at Meyer Design. We also have another amazing person from Meyer, Deb Breslow. She is also a principal for the corporate practice for interiors. And a very special person to me, Leah Stoner, a recent Drexel grad, as well as an interior designer at Floss Barber, and then myself. And of course, I wanted to mention Liz Kane. She is not moderating today. However, she is in charge of our professional development at ASID. And if you have any questions at the end, you can send those to her email address, which is professionaldevelopment@pae@asid.org. So let's move forward. All our great panelists. So before, of course, I mentioned just a little bit of background about everyone, but I'd like to hear from the panelists themselves how they would like to introduce themselves and to just give us some general background and knowledge on themselves. How about we start with Leah?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Leah Stoner. I'm an interior designer at Floss Barber, Inc. We are a 10-person full-service interior design firm located in the Philadelphia area with more than 30 years of experience in the industry. We focus on primarily hospitality, but we do everything except for healthcare. I have been at Floss Barber for a year and a half now and am a graduate of the Masters of Architecture and Interior Design at Drexel University. Before becoming a designer, I was actually a teacher, and my focus is in place-based design.
Great, thanks, Leah. How about we move on to Deb?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Deb Breslow. I'm a principal at Meyer Design. We're a full-service interior design architecture firm. We've been around approximately 45 years. We're about 75 people. And we focus on majority of both corporate commercial spaces as well as senior living and some life sciences within the, I'd say, Ardmore, Philadelphia area, as well as nationally being part of One Global Design. My focus there is in the corporate sector, I'm a graduate of Philadelphia University, which at the time, well, now it's DefU, but it was textiles at the time that I graduated. And my focus is on working with organizations to work with them on the design of their space, merging it with what their office culture is to create a space combining culture and office together.
Great. Thank you, Deb. Phil, could you tell us some about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Good morning, everyone. Phil Burkett from Meyer. I have the ultimate fortune of being able to work with Deb Breslow, and along with Deb, we lead the corporate sector. And yeah, everything about Meyer is what Deb said. We are located in Ardmore, and we focus mostly on corporate and multifamily and senior living. And I'm a proud graduate of Temple University.
Great. Thanks, Phil. Marcello, can we hear from you, please?
Sure. Hi, Lindsay. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thanks.
Marcello Luzzi from WPL Interior Design, formerly Weixler Peterson Luzzi, but we shortened it. We are located in Ardmore, Pennsylvania, and we do high-end residential design mostly. It's probably 80–90% of our business. We do small-scale hospitality, retail, commercial projects for clients if they have a business or something. But other than that, we're primarily residentially focused. I think that's it.
Great. Thanks, Marcello. Last but not least, Heather, can we hear about you, please?
Thanks, birthday girl. My name is Heather Moore. I'm with Maharam Textiles. I am a graduate of Philadelphia University with a degree in interior design. I practiced interiors for several years here in Philadelphia. I worked at the Granary, which is now Stantec. And midway through there, I spent about a year in London working in design as well. And I've been with Maharam now for 13 years. Yeah, so specializing in residential, leather, healthcare, corporate, so much stuff to offer now. So yeah, it's exciting.
Great, thank you. So for all of our viewers, I have some questions for our panelists, and this is going to be very conversational, fun, and engaging. But towards the end, if you have any questions that come up during this time, please submit them in the questions and answers you'll see at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. So let's move forward so we can hear from everybody. So I have another question for the group, and this is now anyone, feel free to speak. I'd like to hear about everyone's regular workflow and how it has changed recently with the current events going on.
Nothing's changed. No, I'm just kidding. You know, I think it's probably it's probably similar for everyone on the panel and everyone listening. I think, you know, obviously none of us expected this. None of us could have ever planned for something like this. We were in the reaction mode probably, you know, in that first 5 or 6 weeks. Everyone was reacting and just trying to figure things out on their, you know, as they go. I think, as they say in the sports world, you know, the game has slowed a bit. And I think we're able to now go from reaction to be proactive. And we've been able to really go out to our clients, especially on the corporate side, and gotten a relative pause, a good pause in terms of where they're thinking, and now be able to then go and be able to service our clients in that way. So it's obviously the biggest pivot in world history for everyone, but I think at least for Meyer, we feel like we're in a good position now to be able to service our clients.
Mm-hmm. And that's interesting to hear, especially because, as mentioned, you and Deb are on the corporate side. I'm definitely interested. I know some of our viewers are. I'd like to hear about some other fields in the design world. Like, for instance, Marcello, you're in residential. How has this changed things for you recently?
So things have definitely slowed down a bit because we're limited by what we can do. We're still doing drawings for renovation projects that will happen when they can happen. So that's still going ahead. And we're still ordering things from vendors that are open. The thing that changed the most was meeting with clients. And residentially, it's very one-on-one, usually at their home, showing them rugs and textiles and wallpapers and all. That has completely stopped. So that's just all on hold. The other thing that is on hold is deliveries. We have a warehouse full of stuff that we have to deliver. It was ordered prior to this. And until people are comfortable, we can't deliver stuff. But we're still working, just not maybe 100% capacity.
Mm-hmm. Heather, just piggybacking off of what Marcello said in terms of things, deliverables for different products and meeting with clients, How has this changed for you, and how are you working to still service your clients as much as possible?
It is a completely different world for me. I love the fact that I can be on the road and, you know, out and about and meeting with my friends and colleagues 4 to 5 days a week. And I haven't filled my gas tank in 2.5 months. So that's interesting. You know, luckily I have a good setup at home for working, and I've been put into a small group of colleagues of mine who've been working on putting virtual presentations together and how we can meet with our clients that way. Also, like how to photograph product so a client likes it. Just trying to get the sheen, the texture, all these different things, and really working with our close clients just to keep the relationship being empathetic, and just basically like staying on top of the orders. As Marcello said, really working on orders that are coming through, making sure that the furniture manufacturers are open. So it's been a lot of work doing that. Like, we haven't been as busy ever, like, which is kind of surprising. Healthcare is crazy, obviously, right now, and residential is really busy. One of the things I notice now residential is asking for is not the wool and cotton and different materials like that, but now they want items that they can clean with bleach. And you know, that are more durable, so they're looking at their homes in different ways as well. So it's interesting to see how the industry may change.
Thank you. And then Leah, I know with you working in hospitality, I know I see all the time different articles coming out about you know, hotels versus Airbnb, and how the disruptor, which was Airbnb, will now be disrupted by hotels. What's your take on this?
Yeah, so before we were really worried about Airbnb as the biggest problem that our hotel clients could face. Little did we know that a pandemic was coming. So we know from history that pandemics have greatly influenced the design world. So right now for our hotel clients, we are trying to look at what are the biggest changes going to be for travel and hotels, so that when things do open up again, we are ready to meet the needs of the new traveler post-pandemic, or not even post-pandemic, but traveling during pandemic. So we're looking at that a lot to help serve our clients. And we're also taking this time to look at our own internal workflow. We have this gift right now of more time to see, are we doing the best practices for each other as a firm and internally, and using that to say, what can we do better? What can we use to our advantage? Like, before we weren't looking at social media, now we are as a firm, and we're using this time to do that.
That's great. Thank you. Oh, see, already awesome answers. I'm already learning things. I hope everyone else is as well. So I wanted to move on to my next question, which I actually wanted to target Deb and Marcello on this one. So Marcello, normally when one thinks of corporate design and residential design, they're envisioning completely opposite things. With the drastic changes we've seen recently, with so many forced to work from home, have you seen a greater demand for creating more office-like home offices? And how do you anticipate adjusting to these new client demands?
So yes, we've seen some changes. Clients are saying to me, you know, with the kids at home, the dogs, and everybody's working or going to school from home, we need quiet space, home offices. I know my niece and nephew, from one's at Temple, one's at Jefferson. They're home with my sister's family. She has an open house plan. It's not working for them. They have to do something about it. So that's important. And noise control and privacy and all that. And then there's also, people are telling me they need to organize their closets because they have all this toilet paper, let's say, or other things that they have. It's like they have more food and more stuff now than ever, because I guess we're all hoarding. But so yeah, it's definitely going to affect our industry. So.
Yeah, thank you. Deb, how do you foresee your practice of corporate design changing? What are some things you believe will be implemented in the workplace of the future?
Yeah, this is, as Phil said, it's a huge pivot. This is a fascinating time. in cultural anthropology, really, when you look at what's happening in the workforce as well. So our day-to-day has been more in our conversations with our clients regarding what does reentry look like in the workforce. So I think as far as workplace design and the changes, I think what's going to happen right now is organizations are going to take a moment. First, they were in it. They were handling, how do we approach what's happening right now? Everyone is suddenly working from home. Let's scramble, let's get a plan in place. Now that people have their plan, they're looking at their cities, states, municipalities, what's in the yellow, what's in the green, what's in the red. We have to plan for reentry. When they look at reentry, they're going to start with working from home. Is it working? Is it not? If it is working or if it's not working, why are we going back to the office? Who needs to go back to the office? Are you going for tactile, for a function? As a designer, do I need to go in to be pulling my finishes? Or am I going in to meet with other people? Do I need to be face-to-face with Phil for a meeting or with my team? Or do I need to be there with a group setting? So all the organizations are going to have to take a look at their different departments and decide who needs to be in the office, why do they need to be in the office, and then the landscape of the office could change depending on what are the requirements. Are they going to be unassigned? Are they going to be assigned desks? Do we take a whole area of open office and convert it to individual meeting spaces? So there's going to be a lot of questions that come up. We are being asked right now to work out a lot of day-to-day tactical plans that we're providing for our clients, which are more along the lines of what do your floor plans look at for your re-entry and maintaining those social physical distances.
Great, thank you. And Phil, I know at Meyer, and just in general, you focus on sustainability. I know you're both LEED and WELL certified. What are some ways that you plan to leverage this knowledge that you have in green building and wellness to improve design solutions for a post-COVID world?
Yeah, it's a great question, Lindsay. And I, you know, I'll be honest with you. LEED, we all know LEED was 15-ish years ago, and that came really on board and started to have momentum, and then, you know, sort of now just plateaued. I think WELL, it has going through their own sort of branding struggles in the past couple of years. WELL's been out for 4 or 5 years, but it just hasn't caught on. Fortunately or unfortunately, the pandemic has caused a sort of a definite upswing in the interest of WELL building, simply because the majority of the principles of WELL building align with the principles that the CCDC and any of the pandemic prevention or pandemic control sort of measures are aligned with. So, for instance, you know, protocols like cleaning protocols and you know, natural light and kind of food they eat, all those kind of things play into this sort of healthy individual, the healthy occupant. So to answer your question, we are getting calls for WELL much more than we are getting calls for LEED, and we're trying to get ahead of it a bit. We happen to be on the global task force for international WELL building, which is exciting for Meyer. We are in constant discussions with people all over the world, scientists, professors, engineers, and trying to really get our arms around this and provide some sort of easier, user-friendly documents for folks to be able to implement as they go back into reentry.
Thank you. Yes, I know I'm not the only one who currently is thinking about this a lot more and how it can affect the way I design, how I think about the end user more, and designing with empathy, really. And speaking of designing with empathy, I actually had a question for Deb about that. Do you have any advice for students, designers, etc., for designing and leading with empathy? And how do you strive to connect with others on a project team?
Yeah, empathy is so important. I say the biggest skill it would really start with is just listening to the folks that you're speaking with, understanding when you're going into an organization or even in a family and you're speaking with them, that everybody has their own personal set of guidelines. So you may have the culture of an individual, then the culture of their department, and then the culture of their organization. And how does that fit into the city where they reside in? So it gets multi-level. My encouraging would be for you to just maintain your curiosity and your knowledge about diversity in this global workforce. There's a lot of cultures that are out there. Everyone is merging, and you have to have a sensitivity to that and an understanding and compassion. My recommendation will be to take a look, and every day on a daily basis, look at whatever news that you get in a format to teach you about what else is happening out there in this planet. It's a pretty small planet, as large as it seems, and there's a lot that we can learn from that. So I would recommend listening, absorbing, being open to it, and getting an understanding of people's backgrounds and where they're coming from.
That's really good advice. You know, I know from a previous conversation, Heather was talking to us about really listening to others. And one thing I know she's passionate about is students using this knowledge and different skills for networking and really just connecting with others. It's really important to her. Heather, could you tell us just some thoughts you have, things you wish that you knew as a student, things you think all design students should be prepared with?
Sure thing. Well, every once in a while, I will sit in on or present a textiles course at some of the local universities. And I've been asked by their professors to kind of throw in some information that I've come across over the years, that I've overheard, because as Deb said, the world's so small. Our industry in Philadelphia is even smaller. Everybody knows everybody. So things that I think young designers, especially coming out of school, should really be aware of. Brand yourself. Come up with what you want to be, who you think you are, and what you want to achieve. Dress for that position. Because I know so many people who didn't know what they were doing, but dressed for it, and they're doing amazing now, and they got the promotions. Also with promotions, right now, be happy you have a job. I think a lot of people just got into the flow of just money, 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 and it's really not about that. I mean, it is to a degree, but we're here to create spaces, environments, to heal people, to give people different feelings and everything. And it's a fun, different industry. You're not just sitting at a desk all day. Sales reps are your friends. Don't be afraid of them, because I know a lot of people think, you know, we're just there to sell. Some maybe, not most of us. We want to help you create a positive experience for yourself and for your clients, especially once you leave the project, because we're then the ones who have to clean up if something goes wrong. So when you say, oh, I know that, I don't need to ask questions, or you don't ask questions, please ask questions. People notice when you don't, and that actually becomes a red flag with many senior members of staff, because there is so much out there. Pick the phone up, call your rep, ask them a question. I can tell you what I messed up on when I was a junior designer, and I will tell you what other people have. I won't say their names, with the idea to help you not make that mistake and learn, because there's just so much. And especially now with everybody being home by themselves, you don't have a colleague to just reach across the desk and just say, hey, can you help me with this? So that's really important right now. And then Marcello and I were actually talking, one of the things that's huge is when you're out there looking for a job and interviewing, you have to think, I am one of how many hundreds of people now with the graduation coming up. How do I stand out? Again, it's empathetic. It's how you branded yourself, and a thank you letter, handwritten. Nobody does that anymore. And I tell you, it goes miles. It really does.
Is great advice.
Yeah. And again, dress the part. Watch how short your skirt is. Watch how clean your jeans are, if you're able to wear jeans where you're going. You know, just little details like that. Everybody notices. And we're such a casual world now. I think it's even more so important.
That's really great.
And then one little thing, that, just because I didn't want to maybe miss saying it, but one thing that I've always told younger designers after I tell them about like rep being your friend, when you're designing, think of how the user is going to use the space, and think how, or listen to what they're saying. they may have struggles and you may think, oh, well, that's BS or whatever, but that's what's going to happen in the space. So you need to listen to them to have a successful project at the end, middle way, and everything. Because you just see like projects that just, you know, the designer goes in and designs it, but doesn't look at how they're cleaning and stuff. I mean, cleaning is such a huge thing right now. So
Yes, that's all really
I hope
great.
that, good, thank you.
Especially as a student, like these are all things I think about. And like you said, with that handwritten note, I remember that's something my mother said to me years ago. I was like, oh no, that's lame. You know, email is fine. I'm glad I took her advice because I've done that and it has helped me. So students,
Yes.
listen to Heather. She knows
I
what
have
she's talking about.
just two other things just to say quickly. Everybody started in the library filing memos.
Mhm.
Just do it. If you do a good job, people will talk. Managers tell reps, reps become recruiters, everything. We all know who's hiring. So just be on your toes and just do the job like you already have a full-time job there. And the resource library is so useful.
It
Just
is.
don't look at it as you're just filing. There's so much to it. And then one other thing is, think of, like I said before, thinking of where you want to be. When I was younger, I really wanted everyone to know who I was. So I joined IIDA. Sorry, guys. I was on the board for several years. I was one of the 4 founding members of the IIDA Design Awards and ran that for 4 or 5 years. And that gave me such a huge jump in my career, I would say. So, okay,
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yes, thank you, Heather. No, I totally agree. I am also a member of IIDA and ASID. I love being part of both organizations, especially as a student. I feel like they both offered me so many opportunities for networking, growth, and scholarships, everything. So students, connect with people. It's very important.
And I just want to just echo Heather. I know for Deb and I and Meyer, you know, anytime that we want to know what the industry's like or what's going on, we reach out to our reps because they do have the pulse of the market and they're just such a fountain of information, not much beyond just the industry stuff, but everything from design trends to what other clients are doing. So I would echo that, Heather. It's a huge resource.
Yes. I actually wanted to ask Leah, since Leah is a recent grad, a young designer, she's new in the field. I would love to hear your input on some things you would like for students to know. In particular, as I mentioned, you're a newer designer. What are some things about the design industry you wish you knew before, I guess, in terms of expectations and reality?
Well, one, everything that Heather just said, do that. But 2, expectations versus reality. I think one of the bigger things is the ebb and flow of work in this industry has been very different from other industries that I have worked in. So preparing yourself for having months and weeks of lots to do, long hours, late nights, and then months and weeks of what do I do today? What can get done? So cultivating a sense of being a self-starter is something that I think is very important as a young designer. 2, the biggest difference is time. In school, it seems like you have all these short deadlines and there's plenty of time. But when you get to the job, there's no time. You have a set amount of hours to get a task done. You can't get weighed down in unnecessary details. So cultivating a sense of focusing on what's important and getting right down to that, because in the field, billable hours will drive everything that you do. And then finally, to echo what Heather said, take advantage of any time that you get in the resource library. Materials are our bread and butter, and there is so much as a student that we don't know that we don't even know yet. So when you're in the library, take that time to learn about the materials and use your reps to your advantage, because there's so much to learn, and it's okay to go to those reps and say, I don't know anything about this product or what I need to convey to the client. Please teach me everything that you know.
That's very true. And also students, as everyone has mentioned so far, the resource library is honestly a great place to be as a student for many reasons. One, you start to get a better understanding of the products. And as mentioned, you meet a lot of people. I know I got my start interning at Meyer in the resource center, and I met an incredible amount of people. I was able to grow my network tremendously, and it's really been beneficial to me as a student at Drexel, and just as I'm working to build my new career as an interior designer. So yes, definitely just echoing everything that was said already. But I'm still, I'm thinking of students still a bit. I'd like to ask everyone, if you could go back and talk to your student self, what is some advice you would give?
The first thing I would tell myself is to enjoy the creative freedom that school provides. When I was in school, it was very stressful. I'm not going to downplay that, but I think it's rare to get another time in your life outside of school that there's no budget. You are your own client. You can do whatever you want. So I wish I would have taken that time designing, not to get caught in unnecessary details, but to just enjoy the creative process and the freedom that school provides.
Yeah, I would say, try to, design school in college. You tend to just hang out with the people that are in design school, right? You're 30 or 40 people that are in your class, and that's your world. I would say to my college self is to try to get out of that a bit and get to meet other people. This is all, I think, Heather, you said about building a brand. And part of building your brand is who you know and who you can connect with. And a lot of that is who you can connect with outside of the industry. Hanging out with or getting to know people in the real estate world, or getting to know people in other architects, right? Architects aren't that horrible. and so, I just think that's what I would tell myself, is just to get out of the bubble of design as well.
It's funny you mentioned, I'm sorry. Go on, Deb. No,
I was going to say, I look at you as the model, and I'm not saying it because you're hosting this, nor because you're the birthday girl, but really, I would build your network. You absolutely want to go out and you want to start building your network. And if I could say it to my younger self back in school, don't be intimidated. I remember working at a firm. It's no longer around. It was a commercial furniture dealer, Lear Mellick, for those of you that remember Lear Mellick. And when I would meet designers who are 10, 20, 30 years my senior, I would be intimidated by them. And I would just look to my safety net of folks that I graduated with, maybe in a plus or minus 5-year age range. And I would not hold myself back to that at all. I would ask them questions and meet with them and talk to them and question them and why they're doing what they're doing, and reach out.
Marcello, I know you're an instructor at Drexel. You actually were my instructor for my residential studio. I know you are currently teaching the undergrads this course.
Yeah.
What would you like to say to your students? What's your advice for them at this time?
I think you're a great example. I also teach at Harcum. I have to put in a plug for Harcum. So I think you're a great example, because what I did was as soon as I graduated, I got involved with ASID, the local chapter. And when you're working in a small residential firm of a few people, you don't get to know a lot of people other than the sales reps. So that really exposed me to a whole new world. And I think, when I teach, the students who ask the most questions, the students that email me, contact me, text me, whatever they do, are the ones that just do better. The ones that kind of disappear and hide, they don't do as well. So it's just get out there, fake it till you make it, get out there, and skills will come from that, and connections will come from that.
That's great advice. Thank you. I was thinking about a comment that Phil made earlier. I was laughing. He was mentioning like breaking out of your bubble at school. Don't just hang out with the architects if you're an architect. Don't just hang out with the designers if you're a designer. I wonder though if part of this stems because I know in our field there's a little bit of talk that sometimes it can be hard for architects and designers to work together, but we know this doesn't have to be the case. Great example, Phil and Deb. You guys work together successfully every day. could you give us some advice to students and designers, architects, everybody, on how you manage this relationship and how others can work to create a productive working environment like you have?
I mean, I could start. I mean, I'd say the first thing is not to see each other as designers and architects. We're really just all problem solvers at the end of the day. And I'm going to mute myself pretty soon. My 4-year-old's starting to get. But I think that would be the first thing is we're look at it as, we have different parts of training, but at the end of the day, we have the same client, we have the same problems, design issues, design solutions, and we're trying to come together. And regardless of the background, that's our main goal.
I'm going to add 2 things to that, because something I just thought about, and if this is geared towards students, please, if you're in school, take a business class. I regret not taking a business class. I have since had to learn it or take courses, which is fine, but you're paying for that tuition. Come out of school knowing a little bit of the fundamentals of entrepreneurship, business, what's involved in transactions. If you know you want to go into commercial, understand a little bit about real estate transactions. If you know you want to go into residential hospitality, take some business courses dealing toward that as much as you could, or just general business. The other thing would be when you are looking for a job, what Phil said right on, and actually I love working with Phil, so it's also part about enjoying who you're working with. There are different cultures. I'm going to come at it from the interior design point of view. There are organizations that do have some cultures of their perceptions of architects versus interior designers. Over all of the years that Phil and I often have interviewed together, we have interviewed a variety of, I'm going to call out interior designers and the levels of years of experience and the role that they have played within their organizations has varied based upon that organization's point of view and perception of how they treat their interior designers and the type of work and projects that they give them. So do your homework. Decide what type of work you want to achieve and make sure that the organization that you go to supports that environment.
That's really helpful advice. Marcello, you also have to work with architects, but as a residential designer, it's a little different. Can you tell us how you build and maintain these relationships?
Yes. Well, first of all, I tell clients that the best, I think, business model for me, in my opinion, is building a great team. And that involves architects, interior designers, landscape architects, and all the consultants, the contractors, and all the consultants on the project. So if you have a great team, it's going to be a great project. And I have great working relationships with some local architects. And I appreciate what they bring to the project, and they appreciate what I bring to the project. And so, I've worked with architects and developers, and they like, the interior space planning that we're recommending, and they add it to their portfolio, and they make that an option. The developers do. So, yeah, I mean, it can be a beautiful relationship when it works well. And the thing is, no ego. It's not about you. It's about the client. It's about the project. It's not about your ego. Keep that out of it, and just, you said earlier, we said empathy. I really care for my clients. Like, I really want to give them everything I can give them. And if you get a committed team like that, who are all on the same page, it can be a wonderful thing.
That's great. Thanks, Marcello. I just noticed the time, and it looks like we have a good amount of questions actually from the viewers. So I'm going to break from my questions and ask them. Let's see. All right, I'm going to answer this live. Do you predict that design will change with the new social distancing regulations from here on out, desks more spread out, etc.?
I think in the short term, I don't think it's going to be long term. So I think, we're coming back. We happen to be in the red. So once the Philadelphia area moves to the green and this region moves to the green and we're going in, we have to address coming back during a pandemic. Then you're coming back in the post-COVID pandemic world. Once everyone gets vaccinated, and worst case scenario, hopefully that's 2 years out, things will go back to normal. But the question is, it's not normal what it is now, it's what's the new normal. And that goes back to the original question of organizations looking at a work from home strategy and how many are in the office and why are you in the office.
Very true. Let's see. All right, here is another one we have from Giovanna Carchidi. Sorry if I misspelled or misspoke. How are you managing the increased push from manufacturers and vendors for CEU and product trainings? Have these virtual sessions been well accepted within your firms? Do you see value in continuing to offer these courses online? This sounds like a good one for Heather.
Yeah, I mean, we have a couple of CEUs that we offer. Harem has a CEU on leather. We have a CEU on Alexander Girard, which is actually really fun. He's a great designer. And it's helpful, especially when we can give you that education. And again, it's also part of keeping up with the relationships while we're all from home.
Mm-hmm.
Can I put a plug in on that one though? Just to add to that, because without knowing who's viewing this, there are so many webinars. Obviously there's Zoom fatigue. Thank you all for not having Zoom fatigue and for watching this. But there's obviously Zoom fatigue. So you have to pick and choose. What do you want to watch? So if you're at a point where you want to look and learn about materials and vendors and manufacturers, fantastic. If you're at a point in your career where you want to learn about real estate and commercial real estate, there's so many other webinars. Phil, you are sitting on the board of NAIOP, and you're saying that NAIOP offers quite a few webinars that used to cost, and now they're being offered for free. Can you just throw that out there? Because free is good right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'll preface that free to NAIOP members. But yeah, so I mean, and I think going back, I mean, this sort of all wraps everything up. I want to also put a plug in for Well and Lead. Both Well and Lead right now, and Lindsay, you and I went back and forth a little bit this morning. They are offering their exams at home, which is a tremendous opportunity, I think, for convenience and things like that, and at a steep discount. So I don't think there's ever been a better time in the history of the world to study for.
Can you see it? 50%.
for
Well,
Well,
it's half off. It's 50% off right now.
For your Well and Lead
students, too.
exams, if you ever think about it, now is the time to take them. And back to your branding, that is building your brand. You know, that is it's number one, you get to learn something. Number two, you're learning something that is appropriate for this time. And number three, it's going to become that much more of a brand builder for you for now and in the future as companies start shifting to what Well and Lead and what their clients are going to want.
Phil, I'm so happy you brought that up because our next question is about Lead and Well. It seems like a great one for you. They asked, which certification is most advantageous for designers, Lead or Well? But I want to ask for everybody. It doesn't have to be just designers.
Yeah, I mean, I can just quickly, I think they're both just as important, I think just for different reasons. I think the top of mind now, and especially we're in a different world, I would think Well is your most appropriate direction to go. I do think there's a 30% overlap between Well and Lead. So if you study for the Well or if you study for the Lead, you essentially are studying for both in a lot of ways. So yeah, Well would be first, I would think, as a priority if you want to do that. I will be honest with you. I took my AIAs, which is pretty hard to me. The Well exam was tricky. It's sort of going back to health class. Like you have to learn about endocrine systems and things that you don't remember, or at least I didn't remember since 9th grade health class. So it's a different sort of exam, but and it does take some studying. But there's never a better time to do it now. And to Deb's point, it's 50% off, and you can take it from home, which is another advantage.
Yes, and actually, it is 50% off, but for students and for those who are recently unemployed due to COVID, it's actually more discounted.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. So
Great.
I want to take it again now. I'm going to take it again. Just
I know, right? Get those savings. But yeah, now is the time, everyone, to check these resources out. And I know, especially if people are interested in WELL in particular, ASID, our chapter, we recently did a webinar on WELL and just educating on that some. It was called Wondering About WELL. You can find that recording on our YouTube channel. You can also subscribe. But yeah, I know that's something I'm going to be working towards this summer. You know, we'll have a lot more time available, and it's just good stuff for us to know. Let's see what else. We have a question from Allison Kapler, another Drexel student. She asked, lots of companies are laying off employees. As students entering the job force this summer, what do you recommend we do?
It's a bit of everything we mentioned, building up your network.
Yeah.
I would absolutely, if you can, go for that WELL exam because it puts you one leg up. It's one more differentiator on your resume, and it is something that all types of clients and folks are interested and asking for. First and foremost, just remember, this too shall pass. You will get through this. We've had other recessions. It will move forward. You're graduating with peers at a blip in time. It's a terrible time. I mean, there are people dying out there from this, so it is quite horrible. But it will pass, and it will get better. So just take those extra courses, initiatives, reach out to as many people as you can, attend webinars, and then if there's someone that interests you, go on LinkedIn, reach out to that person directly, and try to make a connection. Play off whatever resources and tools that you have. I'm going to give Heather a shout out here that this is where also your manufacturer's reps, who they know so many people within. It's an incredible network, and they also know the scoop on everybody, you know, and what the culture's like. So if you really want to get the real deal, you reach out to your reps, and they can help make connections for you.
That's right. And don't have fear.
Yeah.
Don't be shy.
yeah.
No. I was also going to say, if you need to move home, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like right now, it's okay. And it might be your best bet because this way you don't have your rent and you can focus on your exams and stuff. And if you're offered a free or an internship that's unpaid, take it. If you can, take it because you need anything you can right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we all know things are a little different right now, but that doesn't mean we don't all still need to keep moving forward and just keep trying to better ourselves. Like we talked about.
Just real quick, I'll add is another. We just like a plug test, but I'll plug it anyway. For NAOP, I think, and Des said, I'm on the board of the local NAOP chapter. There's a developing leaders group, and we do offer steep discounts. And the only reason I say that is back to the original point of getting outside of the design bubble and getting to meet other folks outside of design, real estate developers. Your eventual clients is a wonderful opportunity to be able to network in that way. And now is, again, there's never been a better time to get involved in organizations like that. Also, the chamber, Philadelphia Chamber offers just tremendous amount of resources to be able to connect with others, as well as just, you know, articles and things that I think are Philadelphia based as well as globally based.
Actually, what Phil's saying about getting in contact with all these other, like construction management, all these other different fields, you actually could have your job switch into one of these fields. So
Exactly.
having these connections is perfect. Like I know plenty of architects that have become an engineer, or they're an architect, but they decided they wanted to get into commercial real estate. So now they actually have a much higher position because they have all that knowledge and background. And for myself, it was beneficial having the design background because at the time, every rep that Maharam hired was all ex-interior designers. So it's really amazing how your base right now can develop into what you create your career into.
Mm-hmm.
And take advantage of organizations. I know, like Phil and I we've been meeting with designers who want to send us their portfolio. We're happy to sit down, review, give them some feedback. I'm sure others are as well. Just take advantage of that.
Yeah, please feel free to reach out. Do not hesitate. I'm just speaking for Deb and I. To Deb's point, we regularly have calls and review portfolios and things, and we're happy to help in any way we can.
I know the networking answer feels like a pat answer, but I've been getting question a lot from grads, like, what am I going to do? I'm about to graduate. into a very scary environment. But the truth is, even in times like these, putting yourself out there to make those human connections is what is going to get you the job. The job will find you. I know a lot of people going out for their first job seem to think that you can just Google it online and apply online, and that is never how jobs come about. So do the work to make the in-person connections. And also, no one knows what this is going to look like, but I have been telling people to find someone who graduated in the '08 recession and ask them what they did.
Yeah.
They at least have a roadmap to how to deal with a similar economic environment.
It's a great point. And also get involved in LinkedIn if you have not. LinkedIn is a tool for this time, right? It's one of the perfect scenarios where LinkedIn is an opportunity to be able to network, to Leah's point, and make as many connections as you can. You know, do your best. I get it. We all get it that the normal networking is not there, but you know, adjust and do your best with what we have.
Exactly. Yes.
Can I add a few points to that?
Sure.
Just echoing what we've already said, don't be committed to a specific outcome. You know, I wanted to do restaurants when I was graduating. Well, at the time in Philadelphia, it was before the restaurant boom. There wasn't, I'd have to go to New York or somewhere else. So I'm in high-end residential. I love it. Don't be committed to like, this is my plan and this is what I'm going to do. I would say keep learning. I did not use Zoom until early, maybe March, and because we had to go, Drexel had to go online. So I'm learning all these new skills, and that's great. Take this time for added productivity. Like I am not driving 10, 20 hours a week. I have more time. I find that my students this quarter are doing tremendous work because they're home with their families. They're not out on weekends. They're not partying. You know, it's either spend time with family or do your work. So this is a major reboot for everybody. And if you don't take advantage of that, then you're kind of missing out. And marketing.
Yeah.
Market yourself.
Basically, when we get back to the studio, find time to get out of the studio and meet new folks.
Don't sleep there.
Yeah, don't sleep there. Let's see. This isn't a question, but this is a shout out for Marcello from a Heidi Techner. Thanks, Marcello. Harcum loves you.
Oh, thank you. I love Harcum.
Let's see. We have a question from Sarah Johnson. How do you develop your relationships? Well, we kind of touched upon this. I guess if anyone has anything else they'd like to add about developing your relationships between architects and designers. I feel like we got that one.
Yeah, it's kind of dependent upon the firm you work at.
Mm-hmm.
Just again, it comes back to the intimidation. I'm gearing this to interiors because it's ASID. If you're an interior designer and you're working at a firm and there's a charrette, put your voice in there. Do not hold back and let them see what you got. Show it to them. We're doing it right now with an event. We have an interiors person working on an architecture event. She's doing an awesome job speaking out, and she's a new grad. I give her a lot of credit, and she's coming up with great ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really helpful. Let's see. Oh, we have a question here from Alex Bonner. Alex Bonner is actually the president of our local IIDA chapter, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware. She asked, how do you envision the role of the physical library, in-person product updates, lunch and learns, etc., shifting in the post-COVID workplace? Designers are so used to touching and feeling as part of the creative experience. How do you all foresee modifications that accommodate health and safety being part of our processes moving forward? How are you finding inspiration in making product selections now at home?
Boy, that's a whole second webinar, isn't it?
That really is. Thanks, Alex. So we've been focusing on presentations virtually, how we can really nail them, make them quick, to the point, and really impactful. And then I've always done so many lunch and learns that basically it's the same thing, just switch to Zoom. And then the CEUs have been helpful with info. We're kind of thinking that firms may not have binders anymore. They may not have all the samples that they used to have. That's what we're hearing. I don't know if that's true.
Mhm.
We're working on that right now at Meyer. So I say that as it's an awesome, awesome question, and we don't have the answer to that yet. It's unfolding. Here's what I can tell you, because we've been checking in. We have a lot of check-ins with everyone in the firm. And for the designers, first and foremost, besides missing each other's peers, we're missing the library. It is so tactile. Is it a soft fabric? Is it a hard fabric? If you're showing a client, something, with a Krypton, does it feel stiff? You do need to touch and feel it. So what are the answers for moving forward? I know within our organization, we're probably going to immediately, when it's green and it's day one, we'll probably limit to outside vendors coming in. We're not going to jump in right away to lunch and learns. And we have Meredith at our office had been coordinating these fantastic Wednesday vendor open houses where we have 3 vendors that come in and everyone gets to meet them and touch everything. And it's fantastic. They won't be implemented day one, but they're not going to go away. They may temporarily be paused, but they're going to come back. It's so important. It's important for our emotional and physical and tactile feel. There's a connection with everything. And I feel once everything goes digital, you're going to lose it. So while there may be a temporary hiatus, or people go to material bank, we have designers who have palettes and schemes in their homes, and we've got samples. I actually, while I'm sitting in here, there's a 2-yard sample that just pulled out to the house. So there's a massive roll outside my window. So while we are at the moment working it through, I don't think in the future it's going to go away, because there's such a connection involved in what we do.
This time off has actually made us realize that our most valuable aspect of our office is the library. And we're thinking about how can we maybe expand it and make the office not a place that we get together as a team, but make the place that's where we go to do all that tactile learning and brainstorming. So I think it's definitely the library is going to look different after we move past this and get the green light, but I'm interested to see what that's going to be.
Yeah, no. Oh, Deb, you're muted.
Deb, you're muted.
Sorry, I was going to say, what I'm hearing you say is your library isn't going to get smaller. If anything, your area is going to get larger, because you're seeing that's what you work to. Yeah, I would echo that.
It's interesting. Let's see. We have one from Carla Roberts. Hey, Carla. How do you refresh and sharpen your design eye, especially in times of stress or fatigue, like in this COVID-impacted world? Tough
Design magazines, books, older books. Go back 20, 30, 40 years. Everything that's new was old. Everything that's old is new.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, they mentioned to us at school, have a library. Have a library. Don't just use online for a source, because having these things at your fingertips and maybe remember something you had seen, it's just go back to these things, learn from the past, use it for the future.
I recommend Design Milk Daily as well. It's a daily email that just highlights little snippets. It's fantastic. So I would definitely join Design Milk Daily. And don't forget to step away from your computers. So you can't sit there and design all day. Take a moment. Make sure after an hour or so, depending on who you are, you get up and you walk away, look outside the window or step outside, depending on where you are. Look, breathe, step away from the electronics, go towards something that gives you any kind of inspiration that you can get, and then come back with a fresh eye.
I always forget the breathe part, Deb. That's the problem.
Yeah. Right. We all need to take time, especially now. It's so easy to just get stuck at the computer all day. I know we have a few more questions. I want to try to get to these. I know we need to wrap up soon, but let's see what we've got here. I guess this would be a great question for Heather. What is your advice to manufacturer reps to stay in touch with A&D? What sort of specific information or presentations are you most interested in?
So I would say networking through LinkedIn, Instagram, even Facebook. And right now, keeping contact more so on a personal level, not so much work related. Maybe throwing it in, but not making it the focus of the reason you're reaching out. as a way to be more aware and ask if they need any help. If they don't, leave it be, but still just touch base. And then information wise, I'd say now it's really about cleaning and finishes. And if you have someone ordering a sample and they're talking about like, they're using it for a hospital, or if it's a bleach cleanable product, ask them if they're aware of the cleaning codes that are now approved by the CDC and the EPA. And, you know, everyone's talking about antimicrobials now, and they're absolutely horrible. They're actually worse than COVID in a way, if you want to look at it. So it's really figuring out and paying attention to what people are looking for and using, and then just chiming in when necessary, but not overloading.
We actually have another.
Is that it? Because that was a long one. Okay.
No, there's actually another question. I guess people are really interested in safety and health and like cleanability of products. Are you being asked by end users to provide seating moving forward to be bleach cleanable or wipeable? How are they addressing it, via reupholster or buying new? What about soft seating in the conference room? In the past, sofas were becoming more popular in boardrooms around the perimeter. Now, do we see that going away?
So cleanability wise, people are really focusing on bleach cleanable. We have a huge list of bleach cleanable options. There's several firms that are asking, you know, a couple people for their home offices to have a library of just each fabric that's a bleach cleanable option. The people using leather, that's fine, because leather can't grow bacteria. Woven products, technically, once the viruses get in, I have a whole like thing that we could go on for like probably 3 hours about this, but the viruses get into the fibers. Yeah. And eventually they'll die, but you really need to know how people are cleaning. A lot of people are reupholstering right now. Instead of just doing a whole new piece of furniture, they'll reupholster with something that's wipeable, that's bleach cleanable. And when you're looking at this, you also have to pay attention to that chair that it was upholstered on. Is that chair bleach cleanable? And how is it going to affect the chair? Is it going to destroy it? It was a long question. Anything I'm missing on there?
It was. There are some parts I think maybe could be great for Deb, actually. They ask about like soft seating in the conference room and how sofas were becoming popular in boardrooms around the perimeter. Is that something you think you'll see going away? You just muted.
I did the opposite. The long-term versus short-term. So in the short term, what we're seeing is, because your conference rooms are going to be limited to the quantity of folks allowed within the conference room, we're seeing facilities removing chairs. So let's say it's a 10-person conference room. They may be, upon reentry, only providing 3 chairs that are seated around the conference table to be able to minimize usage. And I imagine if there's sofas, we have benches everywhere that have been put in locations, they'll probably be off limits. For designing new spaces in the short term, it certainly is a consideration, and it's coming up right now for topic of conversation without anyone necessarily knowing the answer. It's almost been, again, paused to, why are we coming into the office? If it's decided for an organization you're coming into the office because you are meeting, similar to what you were saying regarding coming in for resource center, then you do need these places to sit. So depending on where that's going within the facility, you would, if it's in a public area, probably look at something more likely that would have a sunbrella type, a Maharam type, that you can wipe and be able to bleach clean.
Yeah.
I don't.
It's all about sorry.
No, go ahead. I don't see
I was just
sofas
going to say
coming out. It's just, it's the long term versus a short term.
I was going to say it's all about fiber research and what's being created in the field by the designers, textile designers. If anyone has any specific questions about this, I can definitely set up a separate call, reach out to me. We also have one of our heads of our marketing department does research for Weill Cornell. She also has been writing a paper with Kaiser Permanente, and she was part of establishing HHI with Harvard. So I can get you guys on a call with her too if you have questions about any of these topics.
Yes, thank you. We actually, we had one question left, but another one just came in that's really great. I want to ask both of these. We have from another Drexel student, Tiffany England, with resumes and portfolios overflowing your inboxes, would you be interested in curated portfolio videos in order to make online interviews more interesting?
Sure. Why not? That sounds fantastic.
That sounds cool. I might have to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you for the
Yeah,
future.
that piques my curiosity. I know Phil too.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be interesting, right?
And I'll be honest, Deb, and maybe it's different for you, but I haven't gotten any. I haven't gotten many resumes as much as I would have thought in I mean, we typically do in a normal world in this time, but we haven't gotten much, and I'm not sure if students are just assuming that people don't want to at least talk to you, but I would encourage anybody that's out there, just it doesn't hurt to reach out. Again, worst case scenario, you get to meet somebody and then be able to show your work.
That's great advice, Phil. I know personally from talking to a lot of my classmates, a lot of people, they're afraid right now. They don't think that reaching out would be beneficial because they don't think anyone wants to hear from them at this point in time. But to hear that from you, I think that will help a lot of people to have that courage to now start sending out that stuff, reach out to someone on LinkedIn. Like I said before, don't have fear.
Yeah. And I know for Meyer, again, is that we would, if we get enough people, we'd be happy to host a Zoom portfolio review or just an opportunity for students to be able to connect with each other, as well as be able to share just knowledge. Again, we're all, I know it's a cliche, but it's as true as ever. We're all in this together, and we certainly are here to support each other. It's a small industry, and so we need to support each other.
Yes, thank you. So, all right, last one, because I know we have to wrap this up. It's a question about firms' interactions with clients. Have you seamlessly switched to virtual? Do you see this trend continuing? For those involved with firms' financials, how are you reforecasting your revenue and income for 2020?
So those are great business questions that were asked there. Yeah, the Zoom, absolutely. It was the Band-Aid being ripped off. Everybody had to do it. And it's fantastic because it's been a question in corporate for years. Would you be able to take your meetings virtual? And organizations have held back a lot of management in fear of their people. They can't trust them to work from home. Well, guess what? They're doing it and they're doing well. So absolutely, organizations are going to be taking advantage of it. Working from home is working, so there will definitely be more virtual Zoom meetings. If anything, it would allow everybody on this call and anyone watching to expand their geography and their locations, because we're now at a point with contractors of walking through, with the iPhone on FaceTime. So you can actually now expand where you are located and help minimize any fears that were surrounding that. I also forgot the second question. I got the first part. What was the second?
Let's see. How are you reforecasting your revenue and income for 2020?
There's, I can speak for Meyer. I can't, obviously, we will let the others speak for theirs. But I think for Meyer, our senior living group is doing very well, large projects. So they're full on strong, and if anything, they're in demand. Many of our larger clients, it's still moving forward very strong. What I would say that we're being asked to do, which is different in forecasting, it's a different type of sales. We're being asked to work with organizations as they evaluate their reentry plan. So our forecasting is well and strong as it could be out there. It is I don't think anyone's is necessarily as well and strong as it was prior, unless you were in a specialized field. But they're looking more at reentry and how to handle that within the organizations and more of planning and achieving the overall goal for bringing the workforce back in.
Marcello, what about for you as a managing principal? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, what was the first question? Just remind me because
So yes, I can read this again. And also thank you to Vita, ASID PA East Director of Membership. This is her question. This is a really great one. Have you seamlessly switched to virtual? Did you see this trend continuing? For those involved in firms' financials, how are you reforecasting your revenue and income for 2020?
so something we've been doing for, I think, the 30 some years we've been in business is we've always had projects out of state. A lot of people in the Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area have houses in Florida. So I'm currently working on a project in Dallas, and I last year did one in Park City, Utah, and my business partner is working on one or two in Florida. We have a house in Maine that we're working on. So we've gotten used to doing this that way. You know, I'll fly in a few times during the project, but a lot of it's just done virtually. So I hope that continues. I mean, you know, in some ways I didn't anticipate this, but you know, we already were used to that and comfortable with that. I've even had clients send me their own surveys of their home for kitchen, bathroom renovations that we'll do when we can, and we're starting to design it based on their numbers. Now, obviously you want to check those, but but for you know, start the process, it works. And then as far as income, I mean, I think it really just is a shift. You know, we're probably doing less, oh gosh, maybe less sales, more fee-based, you know, something like that. But I don't see a huge dip, maybe a little dip, but I think it's transitioning into the new way to make money. I mean, look, every crisis like this is an opportunity. So some people are going to make a lot of money if they come up with a brilliant idea, and that's just it. It's just like, what should we focus on? What, you know, so yeah, we're doing more drawings, more renovating, you know, renovation stuff. So
Great. Well, I know that I have learned an incredible amount today. I wanted to thank everyone who was on this panel. I want to thank everyone who has joined us today. Thank you also for all of these amazing questions. There's still so many more. I know I have more, but for those who would like to send more questions our way, these can actually be sent to Liz Kane. Her email address was mentioned earlier, and that can also be sent out later as well. It's professionaldevelopment@pae.asid.org. And as I mentioned, I just want to thank everyone, and I just hope that everyone stays safe and well. And as mentioned before, we're in this together. So thank you.
Happy birthday, Lindsay.
Thank you. Woo! Now I can go have fun. More fun. But yes, great to talk with everyone today, and I hope to see everyone again soon in real life.
Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye,
Take care.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
bye.